What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Bitcoin and Markets. My name is Ansel Lindner. Happy Monday out there. Monday is Bitcoin Fundamentals Report Day. My free newsletter goes out on that day, and then we read through it here on a live stream. Try to get the conversation moving. So like, comment, subscribe. If you do make your comments down below, I'll try to get to them at multiple periods throughout the show here today. But let's jump right into it. BitcoinandMarkets.com. That's my homepage where you can find all of my content. Also, check out bmpro.substack.com. I do write over there as well, but 99% of the stuff is coming out on bitcoinandmarkets.com. We have a free tier, which is a free newsletter, comes out every week, and we are on issue 295. Oh, by the way, guys, I am live streaming on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, and Telegram. So for the video platforms to make comments, just go. The link is in my pinned tweet. If you're watching on Twitter, and you can make it over there to YouTube or Rumble, comment, and I will answer the questions. Or if you want to push back on whatever I say, that's fine too. Okay. Quick navigation. No layer 2, as you can see. I didn't see any big layer 2 news, so I did not include that section this week. Snapshot of Bitcoin. Weekly trend is hope. We got some hope. We held the bottom of the range. We're bouncing up, hitting the middle line of the range. We'll take a look at a live chart. We'll take a look at a few price charts down below. But we have some hope in the market right now. Media sentiment is indifferent. I mean, it's very positive, all the stuff that politicians are saying about Bitcoin and stuff. But overall, the media sentiment is kind of, there haven't been any huge stories making the rounds, so I have moved it to indifferent. Network traffic is low. We'll take a look at Mempool, Hashrate Difficulty, all of that stuff. Mining industry is struggling and shifting still. The hash ribbons, are showing big time consolidation. We're on track for a negative 6% difficulty adjustment. So, mining industry is struggling right here, but we will take a look at some headlines for the mining industry below. Price section. 63,782. That is up $3,500 from last Monday, or 5.8%. So that's a big turnaround, and love to see that. That's going into this hope. Market cap 1.25 trillion. That's so low. I can't wait till we're at 2-3 trillion. This is going to, Bitcoin can't make a difference it can make a very, very marginal difference in the world at 1.2 trillion. Much more than in the old days when we were looking at like 100 billion, and now we're at 1.2 trillion. So that is a big difference. But we got to get to 10 trillion before this becomes an asset class that is really setting the tone and making waves and bringing all of the freedom aspects that it promises to the world. All the good benefits of Bitcoin, they won't really accrue to the world all that much. They'll accrue to individuals, and you'll have those sovereign individuals that can take advantage of this. But for society as a whole, it needs to be above 10 trillion. I mean, maybe even $50 trillion market cap before we really feel the benefits that Bitcoin can bring. So anyway, Satoshis per dollar, 1570. 1 finny, or 1/10,000th of a Bitcoin, is $6.37. Previous difficulty adjustment was pretty much even, but like I said, a negative 6% in about 3 days is what's estimated. And this, from just a blurb I saw, this would be the biggest decrease since FTX. So that's significant. I've seen negative, I think, like 14% dips in difficulty, like when the Chinese miners shut off. I think there was even a 15% difficulty adjustment negative. So this isn't like disastrous. This is actually healthy, and this is how the Bitcoin network gets back on its feet. Mempool 194, pretty much what it was last week, but we will take a look at the mempool down below as well. And let me just check my levels, because I had a sinking feeling I was muted on Telegram, and I am not. Okay. Fees for a next block, 98 cents, 11 Satoshis, sats per virtual byte. That is exactly what it was last week. So fees have been very, very stable. Low priority fee is 80 cents if you don't care to get it. confirmed in the next block and you can wait an hour or two, you can save 20 cents. Okay, Lightning Network. Capacity is still increasing. Another 1% increase for capacity on Lightning Network this week, 49 Bitcoins. But channels are still declining. So we saw this exact pattern last week with capacity going up in Bitcoin terms and channels going down. So this is kind of a centralizing type of trend here, or maybe a hub and spoke model type of trend. All right. In case you missed it, here's all the content that I have put out for Bitcoin Magazine Pro. Member stuff. We did have a post last week for premium, and we also have the July price forecast competition. So let me talk about this real quick. For those guys just finding my stuff new, we have 58 viewers, so probably most on Twitter. If you guys are finding my stuff new, we do have a price forecast competition every month, and the person that's closest to the closing price, at the end of each monthly candle, they win $20 in sats. You do have to be a paid member. So for $5 a month, you get a chance to win $20 a month if you win the price forecast competition. So check that out. We have a winner, and we every month, and we have this Hall of Fame here where we have all of our prophets, wizards, and all of our Hall of Fame listed for all the way back to 2019 is when we started it, when we were back on Discord. Now we are on Telegram, but okay, let me go back. So that's a cool little perk for members. Check that out. All right, and then my blog stuff. Okay, let's get into the headlines for this week. Oh, by the way, yeah, again, if you guys are new, this quick navigation is all the different sections that I talk about. So we have headlines, we have macro headlines, price analysis, mining, and layer 2 when there is layer 2 stuff. But like I said, there is none this week. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. All right, let's go to headlines. Sony to launch Bitcoin exchange. So I think I linked to Bitcoin Magazine article on this. Sony Group is preparing to launch a Bitcoin and crypto exchange in Japan after acquiring Amber Group's local subsidiary, Amber Japan. The revamped exchange will be called S-Blocks and aims to boost Sony's presence in the Bitcoin space. The move reflects Sony's growing push into Bitcoin. By leveraging the Amber Japan exchange, Sony can capitalize on its brand recognition and global reach to boost the adoption of its future Bitcoin offerings. Japan has emerged as a leading Bitcoin market due to proactive regulation and high consumer awareness. This makes it an ideal place for Sony to debut the expanded services. Some typos there for Bitcoin Magazine. I think this move signals more than is being interpreted at first glance. This is the Japanese government's way to get into Bitcoin. While Japan is a market economy, it is unique in the kind of managerial involvement from the government. So it is a market economy. It's part of the Western type of economies, but it's highly managed by the government. The bank. This is very classic. If you go back to the Japanese miracle, they had very strict window guidance from the central banks. Or the central bank. So the central bank would, say we need this amount of investment in this sector, and the banks would be tasked to go out and do that. So it's very centrally managed, but it's still considered a market economy. And I looked it up just to get a little bit more backing for this claim. And so from Encyclopedia Britannica, Japan's system of economic management is probably without parallel in the world. Though the extent of direct state participation in economic activities is limited, the government's control and influence over business is stronger and more pervasive than in most other countries with market economies. This control is exercised primarily through the government's constant consultation with business and through the authorities' deep, indirect involvement in banking. Consultation is mainly done by means of joint committees and groups that monitor the performance of and set targets for nearly every branch and sector of the economy. Japanese bureaucrats utilize broad discretionary power rather than written directives to offer administrative guidance in their interaction with the private sector, in order to implement official policies. So going back to my thing, I think that this move from Sony is not without the Japanese government's blessing. The Japanese government might even have gone as far as to say, we don't want all of this Bitcoin activity to be the investment and trading to be offshore. We want a piece here as well. So yes, we approve this, Sony, and we want you to go about it. So it's a little bit more than just a private company, say in the United States, deciding to form a Bitcoin exchange. It does have a little bit more backing, official backing of the Japanese government, which is interesting. Okay, next headline. Germany moves another 1,500 BTC to exchanges. This is from The Block. Last week, the news hit that the US and German governments were selling Bitcoin. I wrote about why this would have less impact that was worrying many people. If you go back on the live stream, I think it was Friday, I talked about this all the way through one of my last articles. And I said that this is probably less of an issue, but it's still important to know that it's going on. That total of US and Germany up through last week was 250 million. Then today it is reported that Germany has sent another 94 million worth of Bitcoin to exchanges. And I did see another report that over the last several weeks, before this really made big headlines, Germany was sending a couple thousand Bitcoins to exchanges. So they have dumped up to, I don't know what the exact number is, but up to 5,000 Bitcoins in recent weeks and months, shooting themselves in the foot. Bitcoin is not an asset that you sell, but I go into a little bit more here. My view of this is my view of this is similar to my view of de-dollarization fears. People think that the countries are de-dollarizing their reserves because they hate the evil US dollar, when in fact it is because their economy is struggling to get access to dollars. They are in a dollar shortage. A similar thing is happening with Bitcoin sales, particularly in Germany, maybe not so much in the US. They are not selling Bitcoin because Bitcoin is evil and they want to crash it. They need money. Their economy is crashing. The globalist EU leadership is waning, and they need access to some more funds. So this selling of their Bitcoin, to me, is a sign not of strength, not of hating on the US dollar, but of weakness. It's just general weakness in the German economy, the European economy. All the economies around the world really are showing general weakness right now. And so this is just part of it. They need to get access to some dollars, but this is a bad way to go about it. Okay, you never sell your Bitcoin, people. Never sell. Collapsed Bitcoin exchange Mt. Gox is about to unload $9 billion of coins into the market. Here's what it means. Okay, this headline is deceiving, and again, I talked about this on Friday. Uncertainty over what will happen with Mt. Gox coins continues. Some analysts believe there will be a significant sell pressure, while others, like myself, think the sell pressure has been overestimated and price will adjust upward as these effects are weaker than anticipated. I point you to Alex Thorne's good thread, and we talked about this. He points out that there should be much less selling than anticipated. Claims funds have bought lots of individual creditors' claims over the years, and individuals left are likely diamond-handed because they refused the claims funds' aggressive tactics to buy their Bitcoin for years. So yes, 9 billion worth of Bitcoin is being redeemed to creditors, but that doesn't necessarily translate into 9 billion in selling. I think like I said last week, good news is underestimated, and bad news is always overestimated for Bitcoin. So I think this big sell-off over the last couple weeks really has been overestimation of these sellers in the market. And once it becomes clear that these effects are weaker than anticipated, the price will rally because it's oversold. It was even oversold on a technical sense, from a daily and a 4-hour chart. So it was oversold, and on a technical sense as well as a psychological sense of trying to front run and price in this selling. Now that the selling will be weaker than anticipated, price will rally. Okay, let's go to the next story. Asia's MicroStrategy, MetaPlanet, buys another 200 million yen worth of Bitcoin. I mean, 200 million yen, it's about 160 right now. So this is just over $1 million worth of Bitcoin. MetaPlanet, a publicly traded company listed on the Tokyo Stock Exchange and often compared to MicroStrategy, has acquired an additional 20.2 BTC valued at approximately 200 million Japanese yen, or $1.2 million. Okay. This brings their total up to 161 Bitcoins, which is very small compared to MicroStrategy, but it's big in its psychological effect on investors and other companies. Every time a large company's stock crashes, people speculate whether they should buy Bitcoin for their cash reserves to boost their price back up. This, what did I say here? This is going. Okay, that means going. This is going from meme to reality soon enough. So yeah, the more people do this, like MetaPlanet, MicroStrategy and stuff, the more other people will do it. So this is just a chink. It's another chink in the armor. 20 Bitcoins coming off the market, going into diamond hands of MetaPlanet. Good to see. All right, that's it for Bitcoin headlines. Let's go into the macro headlines. Biden seals his fate with debate performance. And I don't want to get too deep into politics on this letter. I do talk from a general stance on this stuff, but I try not to get into the weeds on these two candidates, even though I do follow it pretty closely. But the presidential debate last week was momentous. Biden appeared to be all there. Blah, 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 blah. This is bad typing. What did I do? I need to have an editor. Biden appeared to not be all there on the largest debate ever, with 51 million people watching. And I want to fix that, because that is the exact opposite of what I meant. So let me go in here. Sorry, 1 second. Just going to go fix this to not be all there. Update. Okay. I can't let that slide. Where are we at? Right there. Okay. And refresh. Biden appeared to not be all there on stage, and the largest debate ever, 51 million people watching, and likely double that if you include all of the rebroadcasts. So people watching it on Rumble, on YouTube, on Twitter, all the rebroadcasts of it. I mean, it might have been 100 million people. This has created a rift in the Democrat Party. With Biden refusing to step aside, this could turn into a major win for Trump with some major macro implications. So with Biden or replacement trying to come from behind, they will likely lead to the opening up of the SPR once again and dropping gas prices. So that will be huge for the CPI, right? There might even, so it'll be huge for the CPI, but it'll also be huge for the economy, because since it's not a money printing cause, then all it does is when oil prices rise, it pinches discretionary spending. And when oil price falls, it opens up discretionary spending. So this will be a stimulus, opening up the SPR, definitely boosting economic activity. There might even be outright stimmy checks again as a bribe to vote for Biden. They unilaterally forgave some student loan debt, which will also act as stimulus, and are now running a $1 trillion deficit every 3 months. All this is stimulative in the short run. Now, this is important. It's in the short run. Of course, on the backside, that will saddle Trump with the fallout recession in 2025. If all this crazy Democrat drama leads to low voter turnout for them, you could see a massive win for Republicans in Congress as well, flipping everything Trump's way for how he will deal with that recession. He's already said he will drill baby drill, which has massive geopolitical effects as well, but he is likely to tackle a recession with tax cuts. If he doesn't want runaway inflation, he'll have to pair those tax cuts with slashing the bureaucracy, which he will have the support of the people, or he'll be seen to have the support of the people in doing that slashing of the bureaucracy. So tax cuts with slashes to the bureaucracy, um, drill baby drill. All this is looking good for boosting the U.S. economy in later 2025. It's a matter if we can get there though, and exactly how Biden is going to attack it. Is he going to attack it with the stimulus, like I say, with opening up the SPR? Most likely, this SPR thing is a given, but how else is he going to attack it to boost the economy going into November? And will it matter? If we have a massive crisis, a banking crisis, or something spilling over from China or from Europe, uh, we're not going to be able to avoid a recession anyway. So, a very interesting time, very interesting confluence of events moving into this presidential election, confluence of events with all of the Supreme Court stuff as well, which we're about to talk about. So everything is, this is a crazy, crazy time. Even you can even bring the Bitcoin into it, because the Bitcoin news about Donald Trump and becoming the first really mainstream Bitcoin candidate. Yes, RFK has promoted it, but he's also promoted shitcoins and stuff. So the Trump endorsement of Bitcoin is huge. Bitcoin mining, huge. And it's all coming together in this really, really volatile period over the next 6 months. And we haven't even talked about some of the other elections. So let's get into those other elections now. So the French elections, everywhere we look around the West, my prediction of the rise of populism and the multi-generational pendulum is turning out to be correct. It is not a typical ebb and flow of political allegiance. So, we talk about, hey, some areas might realign from one party to another. You get different small different shifts. You have swing states that become not swing states, and then other states that become swing states. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about major wholesale realignment in politics. That's the pendulum that we're seeing swing. And that parallels with the realignment in the monetary system as well, if you guys are well aware of my macro thesis. So here's how the vote share broke out there in France. National Rally got 33%. The left-wing New Popular Front got 28%. Macron, his centrist alliance, got 22%. And we had some stragglers down here. So this was the first round of voting. And the response has been quite violent from the left. If you guys have seen the riots breaking out in Paris and other cities, this is the left, the violent left, the radical left, the woke left, the Davos left. They are the ones that are violent, and they are the ones that are not accepting democratic results. So they were fiery riots in the streets. This might push some of those others into the hands of the National Rally. So you can see that Macron centrists, they might leave and join the National Rally. You might get some of these others down here, this 10%, that might join the National Rally. I don't know exactly how the governments are formed here. If you had to have a majority to form a government, because they might get, if they do have to have a majority, they might get locked out of this somehow. And I again, I'm not super familiar with every country's different ways of they form a government, but this could be cause a backlash if National Rally is actually thwarted from forming a government. So there you go. Elections in the UK are also coming up July 4th, which are also expected to see a surge in the new right Reform Party. So again, we talked about this, that 2024 was going to see the most international elections or national elections around the world of any year, I think, ever, that, in recent history at least. And so this was always going to be a very pivotal year politically. But we have what's going on in France. We have what just happened in Germany and the EU in general, with more with the woke and Davos Marxists losing to more nationalist populist sentiment. And we will see how that turns out in the UK, how that turns out in France, and on. Okay. Now let's talk about these big U.S. Supreme Court cases. So huge case after huge case in big hit to bloated government. Many people believe the U.S. experiment and Constitution have failed. What most people do not realize is the system was not built to be rigid and fragile. So, is this with steel? I can't remember which material it is, but if it's highly, highly rigid, that's why those samurai swords are folded so many times, to break up the alignment of the atoms in the metal and stuff. So if you have something that's very rigid, it's going to also be very fragile. You have to design a government that is flexible, and it ebbs and flows throughout history. So when people say the Constitution has failed, it's because they're expecting something different. They're expecting the Constitution to never, ever allow a single person to be found guilty when they're innocent, or never, ever allow a single person's rights to be trampled on. That's not how the system works. Okay, the system is designed to do the best possible, get the closest it can to that ideal. There is exceptions for everything, right? There's exceptions to free speech as well. If you are intentionally trying to have somebody commit violence on someone else, or intentionally trying to cause a stampede of people and cause harm, there are limitations to free speech. There are limitations to everything, but we're approaching the ideal as much as we can, and that's what the Constitution has been able to do. I mean, why would the Marxists want to destroy it so bad if it's broken already? It's there enough to thwart the Marxists so far. So it's flexible and ebbs and flows throughout history, but always swings back toward the original intent. There are decades where it moves in a certain direction that might look like failure, but public sentiment changes and a new crop of justices and politicians rise and take the country back in another direction. The Constitution is there to bend but not break. If the Constitution were dead, why would the Marxists want to destroy it? The recent Supreme Court cases that have come down in the last 2 years, and particularly the last couple of weeks, are a massive win for sanity and civilization. They should serve as a major white pill to doomers who constantly claim Western civilization and the U.S. is dead. So just today we had the presidential immunity. This is from all of the constitutional scholars that I listen to on YouTube and stuff. This was just an acknowledgement of what the Constitution already said. It was not making new laws in any way, shape, or form. It was just telling people how the Constitution already reads. Okay. So they must first, the law is, he's not above the law because there's a special law for the president. There's a law the president has that we don't have to live under, and that is being impeached or being convicted by the Senate. So he has extra laws on top of him, and he's immune from other certain laws until this happens. So if he gets impeached and convicted in the Congress, now he is liable just like you and I. All right. That's clearly written into the Constitution, and that's what this case said. Unconstitutional SEC courts were abolished last couple weeks here. I think that was the Jacobson, or what was that case? I can't remember now. SEC versus Jackie. Anyway, they said the Supreme Court can't have these like kind of secret courts and make their own laws and have their own judicial system. They have to preserve the right to a trial by jury in a court like everybody else. So this is a huge, huge win. I know Nolan Bowerly, Count BTC, he was talking about this for a long time. I think he has his JD, but he was saying that this is one of the things that needs, one of the biggest parts of the system that was in the shadows, was the way that this secret court system worked, and it needed to get overthrown. So I'm sure he's very, very pleased how that has come out. The Chevron deference was overturned. This strips bureaucrats of a lot of their power and curtails the administrative state. And the Second Amendment has been preserved over and over again over the last couple of years. The only case that was suboptimal was the Facebook case. This is where the Supreme Court dismissed it on standing, keeping them from having to actually make a rule on the merits of the government colluding with social media to censor speech. This will come up again. So this was not like a final thing. This was, they just didn't want to hear it based on standing. All right. So that was that headline. And now we're going to go into price analysis. But first, let me check the comments, see what's going on. If you guys are watching on Twitter, check out the YouTube and Rumble links. They're pinned, the pinned tweet in my profile. And I'll take a look at the comments. No comments yet. Let's take a look over here on Telegram. No comments here on Telegram either. So check that out, guys. I would love to go back and forth, answer your questions if you have any. But all right. Let's maximize that again. Price analysis for Bitcoin today. Last week I said these oversold conditions will get corrected. You know, a lot of people that don't like TA, they're like, oh, they see this oversold. I'll show you in another chart down below. That they'll see the oversold and they'll be like, how it can just keep going. I mean, all this TA is woo-woo, but no, oversold conditions will get corrected. And then I continued. This is a major milestone for price, being this oversold. On the daily, remember, you had to go back to August of 2023, and then you had to go back to March of 2023. And before that, to see the oversold conditions like this. And so, yeah, it was a big deal when the daily goes oversold. That's a big deal. It's a 1 in every 6 month sort of happening, and it always coincides with the bottom. So this is a great opportunity to buy the dip. If you're interested, I expect a bounce to come later this week or next. And that was me writing on last week's issue. So far, we have a weak bounce to the 20-day MA. There's still a lot of resistance above the price, and this bounce is not nearly strong enough yet to break through it. We are not out of the woods yet. So let's take a look at this. I have on here the 50-day, 100-day, 128-day, 20-week, 20-day, which you can see we just bounced right off of that, and the 200-day down here providing support. So a lot of resistance to get through up to 67, to break up to 67. There's a ton of resistance in the way. Let's go take a look at a live chart. And what are we seeing here? Same sort of thing. Going up to the 20-day right now. Here's the 50-day up here, 66,500. We will see if we can break through this 20-day or if we get rejected. There is a possibility, too, that we make it past the 20-day here, either today or tomorrow, then get rejected at another little higher level as this bounce kind of plays itself out. And then we have to test support. And we will talk about support here in just a second. Okay, so this consolidation range has proven to be a monster. We were able to get to oversold without breaking out of the bottom with a higher low even. So check that out. That range has definitely been a monster, and we got to oversold within and at a higher low than previously in this range. But this range has definitely been a monster, and I don't know anybody who saw such a tight sideways move after the ETFs launched. You know, after our initial surge of the ETF launch, and then on March 4th, we topped out right here, and it has been just caught in this very tight range for a long period of time. So we will see when that eventually breaks out. But oversold within the range is, I think, an important thing to note. All right. Below on the 1 month heat map, the upward cascade becomes more clear. So I've talked about this cascade. These are shorts above the price. These are shorts. And down here would be longs, right? And so if you're below the price and it hits you, you get liquidated. Your long gets liquidated. You have to sell Bitcoin. Up here, your short gets liquidated and you have to buy Bitcoin. So as we cascade up, what happens here is we tick through all of these different levels, and people are having to buy Bitcoin to close their liquidations or to when they get liquidated. And that just pushes price even higher because you're buying. Just like it pushes price lower here. When you get liquidated, you sell Bitcoin, and that has a reinforcing to push price lower and lower and lower. Here is the opposite. It's going to push price higher and higher. And look at how juicy these liquidations are in a stair-step fashion, all the way back up to all-time highs. This level is just massive at 72,000 right now. I say each level moving higher in price is going to reveal buying pressure from short liquidations. This is going to dwarf any selling from governments or Mt. Gox creditors. Each level unlocks moving to the next higher level. Now, if we go down to the 3 month, we can see where the true goal is for this move. Examining the 3 month liquidation heat map, we add all the liquidations for this one trading pair on one exchange. So if we add up all the liquidations for this one trading pair, Bitcoin Tether, on this one exchange, Binance, just that one, because there's all sorts of different pairs, right? Binance also has a USDT pair. Or sorry, not USDT. Binance has a USD pair that's not Tether. So it's just the Tether pair on Binance. $12.75 billion in liquidations between 72 and 73,000. I mean, it's massive, people. It's massive. One exchange, one pair, $12 billion in liquidations. That is a gravitational force that's going to pull price higher. My important levels to watch. So now we're getting back on this. This is where we're going in, I would say, next month. We'll get back up to the all-time high. But for the next week or so, my important levels to watch are the top of the flag at 61,800. If we close below that number, we will likely see a lower low close and bullish divergence, which we talked about last week. To the upside, the level to watch is the 50-day moving average at 66.5. That would also be breaking all the other resistance I showed above. Uncertain if we can get there this week, but I still think July is going to be a big month because the bearish selling has been overestimated. So let's take a look at this one. You can see this is that level we had to hold on the downside, 61,800. I think that's an important level. If we do close below that, we'll probably make a new low close, and that will set up a bullish divergence on the RSI. 50-day is to the upside. And then, of course, the ultimate up here at 72,000, which doesn't look that crazy. I mean, just look at the chart. It doesn't look that crazy. It could be there in a month easily. All right, so that's everything I have for price. Let's move on to mining. I'm actually going to check comments one more time. Dex Invictus with us. What's up, my man? If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, put them into the chat box. If you guys are watching on Twitter, check out YouTube and Rumble. The links are in my pinned tweet. Live streaming over there. Also live streaming on Telegram, t.me/Bitcoin and Markets. That's the community over there. So let me check and see if they have any comments coming up. No, they do not. Okay. So let's continue on with the mining section. So headlines from the mining section. Miner reserves are leveling out and increasing slightly. I didn't really have much to comment on this. Pointed this out last week that miner reserves were kind of slowing their decline. And now this week they have really turned the corner. And it's interesting that they turned the corner right before price. So they hit a bottom, I guess, right as Bitcoin hit a bottom, but they turned higher and led Bitcoin back higher. So this miner reserve, or the amount of Bitcoin held by Bitcoin miners, is starting to turn back up. But we will watch where this goes. It's not super correlative, or there's not a strong correlation to the Bitcoin price, at least on the long term. Maybe there is in the short term, but it's something to watch because it's also health of the Bitcoin miners, which is important for the industry overall and all of those things. Okay. Hut8 and their AI ambitions. After securing $150 million in funding, several Bitcoin miners have become increasingly vocal about their diversification strategies post-Bitcoin halving, with many venturing further into AI. Hut8 is among them, recently revealing it would look to build out its high-performance computing vertical to support AI applications. The company said Monday it had secured $150 million in funding through a convertible note from tech-focused investment firm Couture Management. The investor deems the miner, quote, well-positioned to accelerate new compute capacity and advance the AI segment. So I have talked about this. I think I talked about this last week on the live streams as well, that this is a perfect fit. I mean, Bitcoin miners and GPUs, they used to cohabitate, Bitcoin miners and Ethereum miners. There is one problem with that. So these companies were diversified into Ethereum mining, where the price of Ethereum is highly correlated to Bitcoin. So you wouldn't have this risk of losing, being completely out of sync. Your Ethereum mining and your Bitcoin mining would be highly correlated. And that's not the case with AI. Okay, AI could turn out to be a flash in the pan. It could have its big ups and downs. We could have a .com type bust of AI stocks, which I think is highly likely. But that's so there are risks. There's different risks that need different type of management and different types of solutions. And so I think some just very hardcore Bitcoin miners are not going to go this way, but many will. So it's interesting that this is kind of a win-win at this time, but we will see how it goes in the future. It could actually add volatility in the future to these Bitcoin miners and their revenue and stuff like that. So, all right, let's take a look at hash rate and difficulty. Hash rate is in major consolidation post-halving, larger than I expected, since I was not expecting it to take this long for price to respond positively. The next adjustment is in 3 days is expected to be negative 6%, which should give miners a little more breathing room on profitability. And you can see we have just trended downward. We have kind of slowed the trend, slowed the decline in the last few days, but we are still going down, and difficulty is set to adjust down 6% in 3 days. Here's a hash ribbon, and I'll tell you what I see in here. So first off, these are the different moving averages. This is a 30-day moving average in green of the hash rate, and this is a 60-day moving average in gray. So as hash rate is expanding, you expect the short-term average to be higher than the long-term average. But when we go through periods of consolidation, the short-term moving average falls below the long-term moving average. As you can see, I thought this was it. I thought this was the final capitulation. They were coming back into profitability. I didn't just pull that out of anywhere either. If you go back to other previous halvings, there was a consolidation, but then it came out very quickly out of the consolidation, just like this would have been very similar pattern to previous halvings. But we got this second dip in the minor consolidation, I guess you could say. And yeah, so that's what we're dealing with now. You can see it's a little bit less, like it's healing a little bit at this level. We will see what happens after that difficulty adjustment. It will cause miners to be able to recover a little bit and maybe turn on some of their marginal machines and slowly build this back up. But that is what the hash ribbons are telling us right now. All right, Mempool. Mempool is stable, and it's pretty boring right now. These were exciting times. I mean, you don't wish for some of these times, I guess, but just been really boring. Been chewing through those transactions, those very low fee transactions for a long time. All right. And there's nothing significant to report in the layer 2 section. So that is all I have. Let's zoom back up here to the top, and I will go to see what's going on with the comments. 88 sats. Just stopping by to say hi. Good to see more Bitcoin live streams instead of the polished hype BS. Oh man, that is good feedback, dude. I appreciate that. I totally agree. There's a lot of high production value. I mean, I don't have any high production value. I'm a real Bitcoiner. Been around for a long time, and I try to be authentic, and I try to give you guys honest information, honest content. That's been my MO for the entire time that I've been producing stuff. And yeah, I see those flashy channels that are just trying to ping your dopamine receptors in your brain. Oh, we're gonna sell off. This is huge. This is huge, guys. It's gonna crash the entire market, or we're going to the moon. We're going to the moon. So I try to temper that. Of course, they're more successful of a show, but yeah, I appreciate that comment wholeheartedly. Thank you. Okay, let's go check Telegram. See what's up over there. Nothing much. All right, well, that was Bitcoin Fundamentals Report 295. Check out bitcoinandmarkets.com to get all of my stuff. There is a free tier for this newsletter, and as well as the like blog posts that come out on the free tier, or a lot of times I put them out first for the paid guys, then a couple days later do it for the free tier. But check out bitcoinandmarkets.com. Sign up. If you're signed up to, if you found me through Bitcoin Magazine Pro, I would appreciate a free sub over here on bitcoinandmarkets.com. Trying to build up my own subscribers, my own subscriber list. And we have some announcements to be made for Bitcoin Magazine Pro in coming weeks, but stay tuned for that. And that's going to be it, guys. Thanks for hanging out. See you on the next one. Bye.